Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Tuesday Cruiser Chat with OTRAMM. Um, Same as usual this week. I don't have anything planned. Just here to answer whatever questions you guys have got. Yeah, we got a bunch of snow here over the weekend, which kind of threw off our schedule. But I finished filming the second and third parts to the 4.7 liter timing belt video today. I got the second part edited at lunch. I just need to edit the third part, and then I can get those posted. I had to order a bunch of water jet parts because we're doing another run of stainless exhaust soon. And while I was getting those parts cut, I went ahead and put in an order for some of the 1FZ 80 series crank holding tools. I refined the design of what I've been using so it'll fit in a flat rate box and use a breaker bar for the handle. So those should be in maybe this week, but probably next week. I ordered a batch of those to see how they fit, see how they worked. So those are inbound for the folks that have asked about the crank holding tool we use for those. I've been going through a bunch of refinements, finally got to a design I like. So figured I'd go ahead and start making those. Got the 3FE dropped into the 40 series, I guess Friday. David wants to know, is there an aftermarket disc brake kit for a 91 FJ80? I'm assuming you're talking about the rear brakes, and not that I'm aware of. I don't know that you would notice that much of a benefit on the rear. Most of your braking is on the front, so you'd probably see more benefit, going to better rotors and pads up front than doing a disc brake out back. You could always swap a later 80 series axle in that's got discs, but you have to change the master and do some plumbing. But you could use one of the later 80 series disc brake axles to get there. But as far as I know, there's not an aftermarket kit. Granted, I've never gone looking for one either, so I could be wrong. And to Reds, how could we get the crank holding tool? Once I've got the first batch in my hands, I'm going to test fit them on an engine at the shop just to make sure that my measurements are all good. And then I'll put them on the website. And you can order them off the website, or if you're local, just come by and grab one at the shop. I ordered, I think, 5 of them on the initial batch just to see how they do. 5 was like the minimum to make them cost effective to have them cut. So we'll see. I'm not sure if it'll actually be a big seller, but figured I'd go ahead and get some cut. Passenger seat gears are bad. Found metal replacement on eBay. I've never heard of a metal replacement for the seat gears. I've always used the Gamma VDs, and they work well. I'd be a bit concerned. Well, I don't know. I'd be a little bit concerned about the metal on metal since it's a worm gear, but I guess in industrial applications, they do that all the time. So I guess if you've got a good high pressure lubricant in there, you'd probably be okay with a metal replacement, but I've never actually seen them. I'll have to look into that. Actually, I'm gonna write myself a note to look into that. If you've got a link to those, I'd love to see it. Yeah, because I didn't know anybody was making metal ones. I've never had a problem with the Gamma VDs, but options are always a good thing. what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so we got the 3FE 5-speed split case combo dropped into the 40 series on Friday. So now we get to do the fun part of building exhaust, changing drive shafts, making cross members, plumbing, wiring, and all that jazz. But it's nice to actually have that engine sitting in the truck. It's been sitting on an engine stand in the shop for months, waiting for a space to open up to actually get the truck in so we could drop the motor into it. So I'm excited that that's moving forward. And our headers came for the 4.7 that we've got out of the 100 series right now, which is good. Finished up that timing belt today. I can throw the headers on tomorrow, and then we can start putting the engine back in that truck. We've got way too many engines sitting on stands scattered around the shop right now. You can hardly move. And my old lathe is still there. It hasn't been picked up yet. So the shop is really cramped right now. So I'll be excited to get more space cleared out. I'm trying to think if there's anything else new happening. I clicked the eBay link and I clicked open in a new window, and it closed this window, and I had to do some clicking to get back to it. But yeah, so I know not to click links while doing live chat anymore. But opened it up and bookmarked it. What happened to Sunday coffee? What happened to Sunday coffee is I've been slacking. We got behind with the schedule at the shop with some jobs that turned into bigger jobs. And we've just been hustling, and I just honestly haven't had time to shoot the Sunday coffee footage. That it didn't seem like very many people were watching it. So it wasn't super high on the priority list. I'm planning to shoot some. I need to do like a video on the new lathe and some of the new tools that are coming into the shop and upcoming projects. So those will probably all get incorporated into a Sunday coffee episode. It just got to where it was hard to have anything newish enough to make up a video. And then I had a couple of weeks in a row where I tried to do footage and something or another happened each time, and ended up not making videos out of it. So yeah, long story short, I'm lazy and just haven't had time. I've got a couple of clips and bits and pieces for when I do make another one. I can piece those in, but I don't think I'm going to have enough footage to do it weekly. It may end up being like a monthly or just whenever I've got enough random footage together to do a video. Like I got to do a run of stainless exhaust here in a few weeks. I'll probably shoot footage, of that and piece that into a Sunday coffee. I'm trying to think. Beyond that, I don't think anything new and super exciting is happening. The tool post and tooling for the new lathes showed up today. And it's probably 4 times the weight of the tool post that's on the old lathe. It's crazy how massive it is. So I'm excited to get that on there. and actually do some test cuts now that I've got beefy enough tooling that it's not going to vibrate while I'm test cutting. The tool holders turned out to be, I don't know, these are like 4 times the size of the ones that were on my little lathe. It's not going to be fun changing tools around all the time on those. What's the best grease to use for U-joints? I don't really have a favorite. Best grease to use for U-joints usually equates to whatever's in the grease gun at the time, at least for us. Normally, I keep, either Mobil 1 synthetic chassis grease in ours, or like Lucas Red and Tacky. I try to use a higher end. I don't use like the bottom of the barrel grease, but pretty much, any name brand grease that is rated on the side of the tube for chassis and U joints is going to be fine. I haven't really noticed a difference over the years, so it's just kind of whatever I pick up at the parts store when I remember I need grease. Yeah, I mean, I usually just use the Mobil 1, but there's no legitimate reason for that other than I like the way it feels as a wheel bearing grease. So it probably feels good to U-joints, and they have good marketing. But as long as it's rated for what you're using it for, I don't think brand really matters all that much. Can you stop tippy-tapping around behind me? Hey, stop. Dogs are looking for attention and going crazy behind me. Well, at least Trillian and Atticus is still in the living room. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I didn't have a better answer. Yeah, we with everything going to like sealed tie rods, sealed ball joints, we don't break the grease gun out all that often anymore. So yeah, it's just whatever's in there. We do keep a smaller grease gun loaded with molly grease for doing the ARB leaf spring bushings, since that's what they spec. But beyond that, it doesn't seem to really matter. I just picked up 2 tubes of Lucas that I think is green, that I'm gonna try greasing the lathe with. So I'll see how that stuff does. Is the 80 series still a good buy? Of US cruisers, the 80 series is still my favorite. It's my favorite to work on, favorite to drive, just all around favorite. The 40s and the 60s are really starting to show their age and the amount of butchering they've had over the years. The 80 series, with the amount of electronics on it, seems to keep people from hacking them as bad as the earlier trucks. At least that's my theory as to why 80 series don't seem to be butchered as much as the older ones. And they seem to hold up better than the 100 series, at least around here. The hundreds, around here are starting to have bad rust issues. The drivetrain in the 100 is great, but the frames are starting to rot in them. And we really don't see enough 200 series yet to have a great opinion on them. And yes, 80s are still awesome to get parts for. And they have a healthy aftermarket. And it seems like the aftermarket is growing. When do you need adjustable panhard bars, and what lift height would require them? 2.5 inches, you don't really need them. Technically, any lift, you need to adjust, because any bit of lift, you're changing the angle on the panhard, and it's going to scoot the axle off center. You don't really notice it, at 2.5 inches of lift. When you start getting up, into the 4, 5, 6 inch range, you can definitely see the axle shifting sideways. And an adjustable panhard bar is necessary to bring it back centered. But anytime you lift it, you're taking them off center some. Just with the lower lifts, the lift is low enough that you don't notice it. But the higher you go, the more it shifts sideways. Have I ever had problems with brake lines working on the 100 series? Took a master cylinder off and rebuilt it, tried to put it back on, and now one of the lines is leaking. We've seen quite a few rusted brake lines on the 100 series, especially the 2 lines that run the length of the frame and all of them on the back axle. We've had, a lot of problems with those blowing out due to rust, and had to replace them. I haven't seen it specifically on a 100 series. I see it more on the 80s, where I don't know if it was the factory or somebody in the past has cranked the fittings down hard enough that, where the threaded portion flattens out to meet the actual flare, that mushrooms way out and they won't seat right anymore. Like, they're a real bear to take out, and then they don't want to thread back in properly. So that could possibly be your issue. It's hard to say. The 100 series ones, because they're at such a weird angle and you've got to kind of flex and tweak them to get the master out, there's a chance it's not quite lined up anymore, or you've cross-threaded the fitting going in. It's hard to say without seeing it. The good news is the hard lines are insanely cheap from Toyota. Like, on a 100 series, I don't even bother making my own brake lines. I just order them from Toyota. They come with all the fittings pre-bent, put them in, and it's all good. So yeah, if you need a new line, I would definitely get a Toyota one, rather than trying to make it yourself. Do I have any recommendation for specific coating for use for rust prevention, painting axles and frame? My personal preference is to, sandblast, wire wheel, mechanically strip any rust and corrosion that's already there, and then use a converter like Extends or Naval Jelly, something like that, to convert any of the pitting that you can't get to. Convert it, clean it again, use a good etching primer or epoxy primer, and then, either a urethane enamel paint or spray paint, something like that over top of it. Like, I don't like undercoating, like any of the rubberized undercoatings, because those can hide problems and you don't see problems building under them. Whereas, like, if you've used a paint and you have an issue come back, the paint's going to flake and you can see it, instead of the rubberized undercoating trapping it. If you just got really, really minimal, like, rust starting, like, just around, crevices and stuff, a good cleaning, prime it, paint it, and then once the paint's well cured, go back over and spray everything with fluid film, and the fluid film will soak in to anything you missed and really help. And how's the shop 80 coming? It's not. It's we've been so busy, it hasn't even moved from where I parked it when I moved it to the shop. I think I've driven the thing 20 feet since I got it. We've been bantering back and forth about, build plans and what we're going to do with it, but we haven't had time or disposable income lately to order parts or work on it. So it's just hanging out. Hopefully later in the spring, I'll start building it because I'd like to have it ready for Coal Mine Cruiser Classic in July. Have I ever installed land tank seat extension kit for an 80 series? I have not. I've seen them on the internet, but I've never installed one. Yeah, I've heard people like them, but I've never actually seen one in person or installed them. Yeah, and busy is good. We are packed at the shop, and we're booked out a good ways, which is good because eventually I'll have the funding to build the shop 80, which will be nice. Lately, I've been spending a lot of money on tooling to build up and make the shop more efficient and expand what we can do. Because I definitely like having the right tool for the right job and making things as easy and foolproof as possible. But spending all my money on tools keeps me from spending money on the new 80. But soon we will start messing with the 80. First, we have to figure out how to get the horrible, horrible stink out of it. It's funny, like when I did collision repair for about a decade before I switched over to mechanical. And in collision, like school starting and stopping, the holidays, weather, that all really affected business. And when I very first started out, we seemed to be, busy in the summer and slow down in the winter. For the last, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years, we haven't had a slowdown spot. It just keeps steadily busy, which is good. It's just, yeah, crazy busy. I can't get the other half of the shop fast enough so we can have some more space. And hello to semi-formal. And yeah, I really enjoy doing the live question and answer. I don't always have the answers, but it's fun doing them, and you learn new things. Like a little bit further up, I didn't know there were metal seat gears for an 80 as replacements, and somebody posted the eBay link, which is awesome because I'm learning new things. And yeah, I will not be doing a full strip dyno mat and recarpet. It will be more like full strip Raptor line and say screw it to the interior. That's what I did on my 4Runner years ago, and it worked out well. So that's probably what the 80 series is going to get. It's probably going to get gutted and just like a set of PRP racing seats up front. And possibly a bench seat in the rear. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, we do lots of seat gears, which reminds me, I need to order more. I used my last set a few weeks ago. It's like so depressed in the background, just hanging out in the living room. Okay. Yeah, I get a lot of people saying they wish we were closer. It's crazy. I had a guy call me from from Chicago last week that wanted to bring his truck for us to do the oil pump cover. It's like 800 miles away, which is nuts. And the JB, not the end caps, but the actual gear that you press on and off. There was a link up higher for a looks like a powdered metal replacement, maybe bronze or something, which is interesting. I may have to order a set to check out. But yeah, the plastic caps I just get from Gamma BD. After I did my seat gears, switch that tilts the seat sometimes lowers the seat back, which is really weird. That is really weird. I have not seen that before. But generally, all we really see on the 80 series is the seat gears being broken. That's all anybody ever complains about. I've never had anybody ask me about the tilt switch. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that. And Charlotte's not too bad. You're probably like 6 hours from me, which is still quite the hike. But we've got one down from Syracuse, New York right now. And we've got a guy that comes down from Boston pretty regularly. Gamma BD makes the plastic end caps. You can get them individually or as a set with the seat gears. Tilt switch is busted. Sorry, not the plastic caps. Yeah, it seems like half of them, like somebody has snagged them with their pants pocket or belt sliding out and ripped the knobs off of them. Cool. Yeah. To anybody that's interested in the crank holding tool, just shoot me an email, OTRAMM@OTRAMM.com. And once I've got them in my hands and have test fit them, I can shoot you an email back about getting them. But it looks like it'll fit in a small flat rate box. Since I did away with the handle and made it so breaker bar will fit. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, we're working on more videos. I finished up 2 today filming them. I just got to edit them and get them posted. I did an update for the 4.7 timing belt. And I think we're finally going to do a 1FC 80 series head gasket video. I've got a truck that's getting a lot of engine work done. So we're actually pulling the drivetrain out to make it easier on us. So I figured while the drivetrain's out and on a stand, I'd do a head gasket video on it. And what would I use the crank holding tool for? So the crank bolt is torqued to, it's either 304 or 306 foot-pounds. So the crank holding tool lets you, brace that against the frame so you can loosen that bolt, but more importantly, it lets you hold it still so you can properly torque the bolt. So yeah, I've had several versions that I've cobbled together over the years, and I finally refined it to where I'm happy with it. So I had the prototypes cut. So we'll see how that goes. I should have them later this week, early next week. Heard of the D vibration for 100? I haven't. So the crank holding tool from Schley, that's for the 4.7, correct? Because I've got the 4.7 and the 3.4 crank holding tool Schley makes, but I wasn't aware that they made one that fit the 80 series. Yeah, I've actually, my 4.7 crank holding tool is a CTA, and it's a knockoff of the Schley. Um, and the, the Schley one is much nicer. I've got the Schley 3.4. And I need to order the Schley for the 4.7 because I really hate the CTA one I've got. But yeah, as far as I know, nobody's making one for the 80. So yeah, I've gone through several home brews, and yeah, so now we're making one for the 80. Yeah, I didn't realize the CTA was a knockoff when I bought it. It was well before I've actually got a bunch of Schley's tools. Thinking the idle is too low in D or R at 600 and it creates a rumble or vibrating sound, but when I give it some gas, the sound goes away. Off the top of my head, without hearing it, I'm not sure. You know, I would check your fluid level because at lower speed, low fluid, you know, you could be aerating. I think what else would do it in D or reverse at idle. I don't think throttle cable because the 100 series doesn't use a kickdown cable like the 80 series and yeah, like the 80 series did. I'm trying to think. If you have an EGR code, I would look there first because if the EGR is coming on when it's not supposed to be on, I'm trying to think of how the 100 series EGR is plumbed in. I'm not sure how. Yeah, I don't think the 100 series runs an EGR valve. Um, yeah, without seeing it, I'm not sure. It could be, you know, it could be a rumble in the drivetrain, like U joints, pinion bearings, carrier bearings, the CV side shafts. Um, it could be a lot of things. But if you've got idle too low in a 100 series, it should be throwing a code. So I would start with checking the codes and move on from there. And the 80 series to semi-formal does have EGR, and that can cause wonky things. Um, but yeah, the EGR, the 401 is such a fun one to fix with so many different things it can be and multiple issues sometimes at the same time. I hate trying to chase down the 401 codes on the 80 series. Um, but yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. And to semi-formal, how do I start to diagnose? So we've got a smoke machine at the shop, which makes a thick smoke that's under low pressure. So I can hook that to the vacuum line that goes down through the vacuum switching valve, and then pull the line off at the other side, and I'll blow pressurized smoke through, and activate the vacuum switching valve, make sure it's doing its thing, and then I'll just keep popping vacuum lines loose, looking for like leaks or stoppages in the vacuum system. Like a lot of times they'll get clogged up with that little metal pipe that goes through the upper intake plenum, or they'll get clogged at the two little, maybe three, well, 90-degree elbows at the throttle body. Uh, or if it's got the old green sticker EGR modulator, we'll start there. We'll put a blue sticker one on it, the new ones. So yeah, they're not fun to diagnose. The 95 to 97s are easier because you can watch the temperature in live stream and see what's going on and give you a better idea if you fixed it, but they're not fun. If I was going to put either a new valve body or new torque converter from wholesale and a 1988 FJ62, which would I tackle first? I would give George or Ward at Cruiser Brothers a call because they're importing those now and have a ton of experience with them. I haven't done one. I've driven an FJ62 with the wholesale valve body in it, and it was really nice. But I haven't personally done them. The valve body might be the easier one to tackle first, just because I'm assuming you can do it with the transmission still in the truck. Just pull everything out from the bottom. The torque converter, you're going to have to pull the trans and transfer case out, to get to the torque converter. But yeah, we don't do a ton of work with automatics. Like I rebuild manual transmissions all the time, but automatics is something I've always stayed away from. I rebuilt one years ago and it worked, but I never never want to do it again. So I've never really paid a ton of attention to the automatic side of things. But George and Ward know a ton about those and are a U.S. source for them. So I would give them a call over at Cruiser Brothers. And C. Payne just wrote that he's been watching the YouTube videos, looked up the shop on the internet, and found out he passes it every morning on his way to work. Yeah, if you're on the 17 bypass heading through Opal, as you go down the bypass, you can see the backside of my building as you're going around. So yeah, you should pop in sometime and say hello. Crash and I are pretty much always there. And we've always got awesome cruisers at the shop. Yeah, that that interchange messed people up so bad trying to find the shop. Because Fayetteville Road, the road we're on, used to go all the way through from 29 to 17. And when they put that bypass through, they cut it in half. And there's just a little chunk of the industrial park that's on our side with everything else over on the 17 side. We get calls from people on the 17 side all the time. Hey, I can see your shop, but I can't figure out how to get there. So yeah, luckily most of the GPS software has fixed that now. But yeah, if you're coming like 29 northbound, we're the turn right before you get to the exit for 17 south. Yeah, it's really weird the way it chopped it up. And it's gotten worse since they put no through traffic on that old section of 17. The alignment shop we use is over off 17, and you used to be able to just, like drive up, go to the alignment shop, and then you could cut through, a back road to come back to the shop. Now you got to go out, make a U-turn, go back to the light. It's kind of a real pain. But it's a decent shop space, and it's not too far from my house, so it works for me. And you should honk really loud when you go past. The guys at the Jeep shop in front of me love it when people honk at them. Awesome. Yeah, we started off really slow with the videos, but we've been trying to add more and more because people seem to like them. So, we'll keep making them. I don't spend a ton of time on the forums, so I don't usually give back that way, but I figure, videos, that's my way of giving back. Um 315,000 on a 9900 series, doing timing belt job and most bearings, etc. for refresh. Was wondering if it's worth replacing brake lined end sections in the vehicle. If your brake lines are really rusty crusty, I would consider changing them. If they're still looking good and they're not, flaking, peeling, and really rotten, I probably wouldn't mess with them. Uh, I don't know if that helps or not. And to Jason, will there be more 200 series content? Uh, Probably, but it's going to be slow. We don't see a ton of 200 series coming through the shop yet. I think we've only got like 3 or 4 customers with 200s. And the videos are basically based on what we see coming through the shop. So, yeah, we can only do videos on what comes in as work for us to do. I don't have the budget to go out and create jobs to make the videos. So we just got to wait for them to come in. So yeah, as we get more 200s through, I'll shoot more 200 content. We don't see a ton of them. We'll go a couple of months in between 200s coming through. Preferred method for cleaning an engine if you don't have a parts washer. Uh, Usually just like a gel or foaming degreaser and lots of scrubbing. That's the way I did it for years before I got the parts washer. A power washer with a foaming wand helps. And you can use, like one of the lower pressure jets on it. But yeah, just lots of scrubbing. Or if you've got the engine out of the vehicle, you probably have a local machine shop, and you can take it to the local machine shop and have them clean it in their big parts washer. It's usually pretty affordable. And to MMA, I just finished up. Shooting the second 2 parts of the updated timing belt video on the engine that I've got out on the stand. Did cam and crank seals, and yeah, put the timing belt and everything back in. So I just got to get that edited, and I'll get it posted. Uh, yeah. So if you don't have rust issues on the brake lines, yeah, I wouldn't bother replacing them. They're not like really a wear item except for rust. The rubber lines theoretically are a wear item, but we rarely, if ever, have seen any go bad. Yeah, I finished up shooting it today. I got the cam and crank seal edited while I was at lunch, but I haven't uploaded it yet. And we don't have the bandwidth here at the house to upload while I'm doing chat. So I'll probably work on uploading that this evening after I get off of here. And I may try to get the timing belt install edited tonight, but it'll likely be tomorrow. Yeah, and back to Adam. the valve body in the FJ62 felt awesome. It was just like really crisp, really firm shifting, and it seemed to pep it up a bit. But that was the actual only cruiser I've ever seen with one of those valve bodies in it. But yeah, I liked it. Not really sure why people join live chat just to be trolls. I can't imagine having that much free time on my hands. And nothing to do with it. My general opinion on body lifts is don't. They're a lot of hassle. On the surface, they look like they're a really cheap option. But by the time you get around to making bumper brackets and steering shaft extensions and moving brackets and everything around to deal with them, they're not very cheap. And they add quite a bit of leverage on the bolts, on the bottom of the body. I'm really not a fan. That said, I can see the case, for like a 1-inch body lift where you're trying to get more drivetrain clearance, or you need just that little bit much more to clear the tires. My 4Runner's got a 1-inch body lift because I tucked the transmission up and it was rubbing the floor. So, I put a short body lift on that. In cases like that, I don't have a problem with them. The 3-inch body lifts and the homebrew bigger ones than that, I'm not a fan of. They seem to be way too many compromises. And Dave, you didn't miss much. There was just a troll, and I just had to delete a bunch of messages. They did not like the size of my forehead. It's an 8 head. But yeah, we did do a 3-inch body lift on Crash's 4Runner, my tech, just because he got really cheap big tires, and there was no other way to fit them. So we made a body lift for it at the shop, but it's not really something I recommend. But most of the things Crash does, I wouldn't recommend. The dogs are circling me. It's getting close to dinner time. What do I think about bending some bash plates or diff protectors? I think they're totally bendable. I'm assuming you're talking about for your 80. Most of the diff protectors seem to be like 1/4 inch. I just went completely brain dead. The ones I used on my 80 axles, they're actually like 1/2 inch round bar that I bent and did several widths of and bent and formed to make everything nice and tight. That's my favorite method of doing them, but the commercially available 1/4 inch plate ones also work quite well. What's your opinion on the Slinky long travel kit for the 80? My opinion is it is awesome, and I really want one for my 80. We've done a couple of them now at the shop, and while I haven't wheeled one yet, the amount of travel they have just on the lift and just the ride in them is awesome. I really like the Slinky kit, and that's likely what's going on the Shop 80. And Mike, 100 series, any recommendations for new tires? This is going to sound terrible, but I don't really pay attention to what's on customers' vehicles as far as tires. We don't do tires at the shop. Like, we don't have a tire machine and a mountain balancer. So most of the time we lift trucks and then the customer goes somewhere else to get the tires put on. So we don't actually, like, I never order tires. So I never really pay any attention to them. It sounds bad, and I should pay attention to them because people ask me this all the time. And they also ask about like tire sizes that fit or hit. And I never have a good answer. Possibly once we expand into the other side of the building, I will get a tire machine and we will start doing tires, and then maybe I'll pay attention and we'll have an answer. But yeah, and then MMA is also going to ask me about metric tire sizing. And I grew up in the world of 31 1050, 33 1250, and I never learned to think in the metric tire sizing. I have to sit down and do the math to calculate out the diameter on those whenever I do them. Yeah, so that's another thing I should pay attention to is metric tire sizing, but I don't. Let's see. So 265 would be like 10 millimeters skinnier, but a little bit taller. Well, maybe not taller because of the ratios. Yeah, I'd have to do the math, but that's probably really close. See, 285 doesn't necessarily mean 33 because it also, you have to use the second number to get the aspect ratio and then the wheel size, because a 285 on a 15 is a different diameter than a 285 on a 17. Um, so yeah, that's why I hate the metric tire sizing. I don't know why they couldn't just stick with 31, 32, 33. It seems way easier. And to Mike, yeah, I unfortunately don't even keep up with the brands. We see so many different ones come through. Oh, and Dave's gonna make my life easy with a tire size calculator because he's awesome. He's a patron and he's got my back with a tire size calculator. Like, I know a lot of people are running Nittos, Coopers, BFGs, Goodyears. Like, I'm probably going to go Goodyear MTR on the Shop 80, even though I really, really want Pitbull rockers, but I just can't justify those for driving on the street. Um, it depends on how you wheel. If the Burks need to be upgraded, going to a 37. My Forerunner has 80 series axles under it, with dual cases, 4.7s in the back case, 529s in the axles, and locked. And I was running 37s on stock 80 series axles under it, and they held up fine. But my Forerunner is also a lot lighter than an 80 series. So I guess it depends. It's there's a lot of other things that go into getting a 37 to fit on an 80. You probably would be best to upgrade Um, but that said, you can always wheel it, and if and carry an upgraded axle, and if you break it, put the upgraded axle in, or carry a spare stock shaft. And if and when you break your first stock shaft, then you can make the decision on upgrading or not. When I was running mini truck axles under the 4Runner, I think I broke 5 mini truck burr fields in one trip out. And then I upgraded to the original long fields and never snapped another berth on that truck again. I think I broke 1 inner axle shaft after that. But yeah, the long fields held up fine, and that was on 35s. And then I bent that housing and decided to swap in the 80 series axles. And when I swapped the 80s in, I didn't have money for upgraded berths because I blew all my money on gears and lockers. And I ran it that way several years on the 37-inch pit bulls, and they held up fine. So, but then you see other people that blow up 80 berths quite regularly. So, I think a lot of it boils down to driving style and vehicle weight and, the amount of torque you can put down. There's a really long-winded way of saying, I don't know. Dave wants to know if the power steering hose on the steering box that goes down towards the paper clip. So all the little return hoses are the same diameter. The only one that's different is the suction hose that goes from the reservoir down to the pump. Everything else is, I think, 10 millimeter. 3/8 tranny line is a really, really tight fit. So yeah, but they're all the same, except for the high pressure line and the suction line. And Jamie wants to know where I usually wheel. Nowhere. My 4Runner has been out of commission for like 11 or 12 years. And then I sold the tires and wheels off of it when I started the business. So it's sitting on like some 235s at the shop right now. We got it running last summer, but haven't fixed the brakes and haven't fixed the tires and wheels situation. So I need to build the shop 80 so I have something that I can actually drive to trails, since the 4Runner's not street legal. We used to go down to Tellico for G-Smitter every year. And then, up to Rouse Creek in PA. I've been up there a couple times, riding shotgun. It's been Paragon before it closed down, but it's been forever since I've actually wheeled. U-joints are another one of those things. If there's no vibrations and they're tight, I wouldn't mess with them. I suck at changing U-joints. Bad enough that when I need to do 2 U-joints, I order 3, because it's almost a given that I'm going to ruin at least one cap. So I avoid doing wheel bearings, or not wheel bearings, U-joints, unless they're bad. And U-joints are one of those things that they're good until they're bad. If they're still tight and there's no vibrations, I probably wouldn't mess with them. If you are going to change them, get the Toyota U-joints. They cost more, but they seem to be a lot stronger, and they last a ton longer than the cheapies that you buy at the aftermarket parts store. But yeah, it really hurts my feelings when I ruin an $80 Toyota U-joint that I just took out of the box a few minutes ago. Dogs wanted to go out and chase things. So what about Matsubas? I'm pretty sure those are a high quality Japanese, although I could be wrong. I don't have any problem with that. Yes, squirrel. They were having fun chasing them in the snow yesterday. Yeah, I mean, a good Japanese U-joint, I don't have a problem with. But most of the things everybody sells, everybody sells locally around here is just terrible quality Chinese. But I'm pretty sure I've done Mitsubas before, and they were good. That's like tie rod ends, like 3.5 is a good Japanese tie rod end. We use those, no problem. And why, yes, I did. So many trolls today. Yeah, I may have been exaggerating on the $80, but they're quite a bit more expensive than local parts store. But well worth the extra expense. It's not time. You got 2 more minutes. Actually, it is time. We're running late. Just a minute. The dogs decided it's time for dinner. So yeah, I'm gonna jump off of here for the evening and go get the dogs their dinner and start getting dinner ready for me and Angel because she should be on her way home now. But thanks for everybody that tuned in this evening. Really enjoy the chats. I just went brain dead. Really enjoy the chats. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe below. And if you really dig what we're doing, check out our Patreon link. I'll stick it down in the description. Every little bit of support helps us in making more videos and upgrading our camera equipment. To Lawrence, if you scroll backwards a little bit in this video, probably around the 20-minute mark, I go over rust proofing. Cool. And thanks again for everybody that tuned in. I'll catch you guys next Tuesday, and I'll see Dave the 26th for Land Cruiser Tech Day. Oh, and to everybody that is semi-local to Northern Virginia, Capital Land Cruiser Club is having Tech Day at the shop. I think it's Saturday the 26th. So I'll be at the shop all day Saturday, and all the local cruiser guys will be there too, and gals. So all the local cruiser folks will be there at the shop, and you guys are all welcome to swing by as well. Anyway, I'll catch you next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in.